Live from clickorlando.com, this is News 6 at 5:30. This is a News 6 Plus takeover.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk to Tom. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells. Coming up, we're going to talk to one of our own, a meteorologist that works here at the powerful KMG, who knows what it's like to lose absolutely everything in a hurricane. But first, we want to talk to you, the viewer at home. On standby now is my friend James. We're going to call him Jim. Jim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. I hear you loud and clear too, my man. Go ahead and fire away. Ask me, what would you like to know here on Talk to Tom?
I'd like to know about the ozone layer. Does that protect us from the ultraviolet sunlight?
Yes, that's exactly right. The ozone layer had a big gaping hole in it back in the 80s, and it's way up high. And the carbofluence that we had from all kinds of air conditioning, antiperspirants, any kind of carbofluent spray, like bug spray, deodorant, all put out the CFCs and ate up the ozone. It was kind of a problem because it was making the ozone hole grow, and some of the nasty ultraviolet light was getting down to the surface of the earth and causing all kinds of catastrophes, from enhanced cancer impacts to the death of animals and burning up our earth. And so go ahead.
I also wondered, like all the satellites they send up there, they say, I don't know who they are, but they say there's like 4,000 satellites up there.
There's a lot.
And every time they send one up, don't they put a hole in the ozone layer?
Well, it doesn't really, it doesn't punch a hole through the ozone layer in that way. And that, like, if you shoot a rocket through a cloud, the rocket just goes through the cloud and the cloud fills back in. So remember that the ozone layer is a very thin layer of oxygen, O2, at the height of the stratosphere. So it's a very thin thing. So if a rocket goes through it, it just goes through it. It doesn't punch a big hole. But what it does do is that we believe now, and that's only a recent study. I'm kind of shocked you're asking this question. It's a recent study at the University of Colorado. I want to say within the last year. Might have been back in the summer. It all runs together during hurricane season. But sometime in the last year, the University of Colorado had a study that said that some of the vapor trail or the exhaust coming out of some of our rocket launches does affect the ozone. And if space vacations or space tourism becomes a thing, and we're launching 400 and 500 a year, then all of a sudden our impact on the ozone hole starts to become a big deal. So it's not like they shoot a rocket, it punches a big hole in the ozone. That's not really what happens. What really happens is the aluminum exhaust is more like CFC, that carbon, the soot they're putting out, does help deplete the ozone, which makes the ozone hole that's almost recovered. Like another 25 or 30 years, it should have closed over the Arctic and the Antarctic, and everything should have
So you're saying that it closes back up?
The ozone hole does close back up over time. That's what the whole push that Reagan did. People forget that Ronald Reagan was a big environmentalist, and he did a big push in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. We changed everything in this country to where the antiperspirants that we use, mass market, and even the stuff you put in your air conditioning.
I was thinking like the holes in the ozone layer, which where the ultraviolet lights rays were coming through and melting the glaciers and that's where we're getting climate change.
Well, it is part of climate change, or a changing environment. Would it add heat? Yeah, more likely than not. It would go up by more than a degree, which would counterfight all the good efforts that we've been having. So if we don't find a new way to launch our rockets, then it could become painful, hurtful somehow to launch 400 a year. You can't be doing that, I don't think, in the current propulsion systems that we have. So I've got a feeling that will change in the future as well. So these super rockets that we're all excited about, and all the big rocket launches to the moon, that might have to slow down just a bit. Instead of, we'll still do the big ones. The government will still do the big ones. Will we keep on doing tourism and launching 400 and 500, 600 times a year? I know that's what they, being the space tourism industry, would like to do. I just don't think that's going to be possible unless we find a new way to propel those rockets.
Well, I thought they were blaming it all on the ignition system of the cars and the gasoline and that.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't looking up there where they're blowing holes in the ozone layer. And I was thinking that contributed.
Well, please believe there are studies. Scientists are on it. And yes, people have always said rockets affect the weather. But they do and they don't. It's not like we launch a rocket and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's raining more. You'd be surprised, Jim, the number of people I run into that believe that if we launch, say, a shuttle launch back in the old days, or like a SpaceX rocket, now they're like, hey, it's going to rain, because that's not really how that works. It doesn't work that way. But some of the soot and the output of the rockets, the soot that's going out, the byproduct of that, would over time, it looks like, affect the ozone layer, could become a problem. So you're onto something there. Yes, it does affect the ozone layer a little, could become a problem in the future if we keep launching, but hasn't had a major impact on climate change yet. It's possible that it could.
Does any of our oxygen from the Earth go through those holes in the ozone layer?
No. You got to know the ozone layer is everything we do is in the troposphere, which is down here close to Earth. All the weather you're used to, Jim, happens between about 40 to 60,000 feet above the Earth. The ozone layer is at the top of the stratosphere, which is like, I've been out of basic meteorology a long time. I want to say that's like 6 or 7 miles above the Earth, or like 30 miles above the Earth. It's like 30 miles. The top of the stratosphere is like 30 miles above the Earth. So no, it's not like the oxygen down here on Earth in our little pool is getting all the way up there. If that were true, we could take oxygen and force it up, only 2 or 3 miles and fix the ozone. But the ozone layer is like 30, 40, 50, 60 miles up. So it's not, we don't interact, in other words. Remember, jets fly like 8 miles above the Earth. The top of your thunderstorms here in the summer and the afternoons are between 40 and 60,000 feet. I would say the stratosphere is probably 140,000 feet. I'd have to check that out. But it's way up there at the top of the stratosphere, almost to outer space. Yeah. I like your question, Jim. I appreciate your time. And Jim, where were you from? You're from Summerfield? Is that right?
I'm from Dunellen, Florida.
Dunellen.
And I tell you,
Marion County.
And I tell you, me and my wife really enjoy your broadcasting. We love your station. We put it on at 4, put it off at 6:30, and then watch it again at 11 o'clock at night.
All right. Jim, I appreciate that. I love Dunellen. Right there on Highway 41, right?
Yes.
Now, tell me this. I used to...
By the Rainbow River.
All right, that's my man, Jim, writing into us and calling in today from over in Dunellen in Marion County. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate your time.
All right.
All righty, we're going to move on with our next question. Comes to us from our friend Emma.
Tom, my name is Emma, and I was wondering, why is there still a lot of seaweed at the beach?
Oh, Emma, good question. Why is there a lot of seaweed at the beach? Most of the seaweed that we've been dealing with this year is that ugly red seaweed, that sargassum stuff. That stuff is nasty. And the reason we've had so much of it, it's been kind of weird. We were inundated with it, which is a big blossoming. Most of the time we get through a summer and we have a little bit of it, but in the last 15, 20 years, all of a sudden, since about 2008, 2010 even, the inundation of that stuff has become a big problem. It is part of a changing climate. It is part of the explosion of that stuff in the ocean due to nutrients. It used to be that stuff does well in areas that have cold water upwelling into the warm water, and all of a sudden there are new nutrients and it explodes. But in recent years, because of the onset of nutrients coming out of the Amazon, coming off of our continent and coming off the continent of Africa, and some of it even transported in that Saharan dust that we talk about all the time, the ocean has taken on the ability to grow and blow up more of that seaweed. So I really believe that is the reason we're having so much of a problem. All right, thank you for your questions. I'm running out of time here on this particular segment of Talk to Tom. Just before we go, I want to say you can always send in your questions to click.orlando/Talk to Tom, and we'll answer them. Coming up next, we're going to talk to meteorologist Candace Campos about what it's like to lose everything in a hurricane. Stay with us. everyone. Welcome back to Talk to Tom. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells. We've been taking viewer questions. Now we want to change gears just a little bit and talk about the lasting impacts of hurricanes, hurricane season, and all that jazz. With me today is someone who actually lost her home to a hurricane. She's been through it. It's our very own Candace Campos. Hey, Candace. Welcome to Talk to Tom.
This is such an honor, Tommy. Thank you for having me.
So weird, right? Hey, let's talk. When I met Candace, for those of you at home who don't know, I've been here a millennium. It seems like, I know for you, I've been here more than 22 years now, and I handpicked every one of my team. I met them all beforehand, and nobody got on this team that I didn't hit it off with, that we didn't love, and Candace is no exception. I did not find you. The news director found you, but we went to lunch, and when we were sitting there at lunch, we started talking, and you started telling me about losing your home. And so let's just pretend we're back there. We're back over in Winter Park. We've not met. And let's talk about that experience. Let me just flat out say, what happened?
Yeah. Well, I was little. I was about 5 or 6, I believe. And remember, my family never grew up with hurricanes. There wasn't a lot of hurricane activity years before Hurricane Andrew. So, we were going on our day. We were shopping for actually school supplies. And then all of a sudden there's been this chatter about, possibility of having a hurricane coming to South Florida. And it was always the thing. I was always going to turn. It always curves. My parents thinking the same thing. Before they went to bed the night that Hurricane Andrew made landfall, it was still projected to impact more like Broward, Palm Beach County. And then by about 1 a.m. on 24th of August, that is when they woke up to see that the forecast cone had shifted. Now, mind you, 30 years ago, the forecast cone looked very, very different than what it looks like now. So that's some of the pictures from neighbors, family members in my neighborhood who, as you can see, also lost everything. So we decided to go to bed in the hallway of our half bathroom. My parents put on the security alarm, and we hoped for the best, thinking that the worst was still going to be north of us, that we weren't going to see it. And it made that slight jog to the south, made its way right over, basically just north of the Homestead area, which is where I lived in Country Walk, which, for those who might know the area, near Miami Metro Zoo at the time. And the security alarm went off, front door gave in. My parents basically picked up little Candace, threw her in the half bath, and that's where we rode out the Category 5 hurricane the whole night.
Wow. Okay, so I know this from talking to you before, but what was it like for your parents? What do they say now? What was it like for them?
It was interesting because for the 30th anniversary of Hurricane Andrew, I asked them, I'm like, let me ask you some of the questions that I never really asked you before. I said, what were you thinking going through the storm like that? And we had the little radio where we listened to the meteorologist at the time, and he was walking us step by step. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have any of that. So he was giving us basically a play-by-play of what we were listening to, why we were hearing what we were hearing, approaching of the eye wall, and how things were all going to die down, but it still wasn't the end just yet. We were halfway there. But I found out that my parents, once I fell asleep, I was sitting on the lid of the toilet with a big pillow over my head. My mom with her back against the door and her feet against the bathtub, holding the door from coming in. And then my dad was standing with a pillow over the small little bathroom window, hoping that wouldn't cave in. And that was our little safe room that they makeshifted in a matter of moments when the storm started coming in. But when I finally fell asleep, I found out, interviewing them for a story I did on clickorlando.com, they actually said goodbye to each other. They prayed that I would fall asleep, and if, God forbid, something happened, I wouldn't feel it. And I didn't realize that they officially said their goodbyes, and, it makes me sad to know that they did that. But thankfully, everybody was okay, and our safe room saved our lives, because you opened up that door, there was no more home. It was gone. Furniture was wrapped around siding from a house blocks away. We had a boat in our front yard. I mean, we had no roof. We had no toys. Everything that I owned, everything my parents owned was gone, unless it was in that small half bath.
Man, that story kills me. The part of them sitting there, backs against the wall to hold it up, back against the door to keep it in. Baby Candace trying to go to sleep and saying goodbye. It makes me
Crazy.
want to cry. I can only imagine what it does to you. It makes
Yeah,
it
no,
really, I can feel it welling up in me right now. That's such an emotional picture for me. That, having kids, you have kids now. You can just.
Yeah.
I really can't imagine what that must have been.
No,
like.
I mean, and that's why my parents are the ones who watch my kids when I'm here during hurricane season, because my husband's a firefighter, so he's also working during hurricanes. So if there's two people that I know how to make a safe room and survive a hurricane, it's my parents. So
And it's the real deal. That's a good plan.
Really
Make
is.
a safe room. Have it there. All right, well, let's talk about that. How is it? Obviously, you do safe rooms. That's your thing. You're really, really into it.
I think.
Well, you do it every year on a hurricane special. And every year, you have to, hey, look, this saved my life. Let me save yours. How has it impacted your family long term? What are your mom and dad like now during hurricane season? A little skittish? Pay better attention? On it
A
more,
little
or what?
more. Yeah, they don't like how I don't have shutters. But I have to remind them I'm much further inland than they were during Hurricane Andrew. So I do have to do extra precautions when they're watching my kids, just because, they're like, we would, that's the way I pay them, I guess, is by securing the house even more. But that's the reason I do what I do. You know what I mean? Like when I was 5 and I was listening to the meteorologist on the radio, there was somebody in my world. My parents, who at the time were supposed to know everything, didn't have all the answers for me, right? Mm-hmm. So there was this mystery person over the radio who knew exactly what was happening, who was able to talk us through it, keep us safe. He, answering questions, and like you do with Talk to Tom, which is why I love Talk to Tom so much. And I knew that that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be that person, that calming voice, that voice of information. Not to scare you, but to comfort you and to walk you through whatever may come our way. And unfortunately, we've had several storms that we've had to do that, and you at the helm. That's the team that I want to work for. It's a team that that continues to support the community and walk them through what they're feeling and answering the questions like you do on your Talk to Tom.
So it really did have a huge impact on your life and what you chose for your career.
Yeah, I mean, I was the only 5-year-old in my kindergarten class who knew exactly what I wanted to do. And the first thing I did is I learned how to spell meteorologist. Awesome. So I made a little song about it. I learned how to spell it. And I knew that's what I wanted to be from age 5.
You were a big nerd, Candace. I love that.
I was such a nerd. But don't throw me in the snow, all right? Don't throw me in Tornado Alley. Don't throw me in. I like my sea breeze. I like my tropics. That's my mojo. Really.
But no, let's be honest. You've done snow. You have.
I have.
You lived other places on your career path. You're a South Florida girl and a Central Florida girl, but you did time in the snow out in the Northwest. You were a chief meteorologist in where? Not Washington State, was it? It was
Eugene, Oregon.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go Ducks. College down there.
Really? Did you just say that on Talk to Tom? Did you just support Pac-10
you know what I mean?
school?
When you live there, you gotta embrace the culture.
I'm going to let that slide because I know you're actually not a Ducks fan. I know who you're a fan of. We're not going to go there either. Hey, so where do you want to go in the future? Obviously, your family's here, your kids are here. You're dug in, right? This is it.
Well, it depends. I don't want to bosses and just know I'm like.
I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about career opportunity, but we love life. We love it here, and tropics are kind of a focal point for you.
Listen, and believe me, I love looking at hurricanes from far away. I don't want them messing with it. People always think that meteorologists, we love hurricanes. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't like working 3 days straight. I don't like picking up debris. I don't like being concerned about my home and my family and leaving my family behind.
Correct.
But it's something that we do, and it's something that we prepare for. But I really don't see myself living anywhere else in Florida. Why?
Because we're in paradise.
Why would you live anywhere else? Yeah, exactly.
You're here now. Why would you leave? All right, that's Candace Campos. Yeah, you say that now. Meteorologist Candace Campos, thank you for sharing the personal stories. That's a lot of personal information. I appreciate you not minding bearing your soul and your family's history with the viewers here.
Hey, it got me a job with you, right?
Well, it did. That lunch went very well. All right, that's Candace Campos, everybody. You can catch her every day right here on the powerful KMG and on News 6 Plus. Remember, if you want to submit a question to Talk to Tom, just fire it our way. Go to clickorlando.com/talk to Tom. Submit your questions, and you can always check us out on News 6 Plus. I will see you next Thursday.